Hello and welcome to the dive presented by Low Chairs and Late Starts.
Not that late.
We're starting pretty normal time. Just low chairs.
Just low
Only
chairs.
Presented by low chairs and low mics. How about that?
And low mics.
Because we have
raise
to raise
that one
them.
up.
For raising since we raised our chairs.
This is season 6, episode 25. We had a lot of good answers from fans about the runner-ups for the funniest
for
play.
the first split you will diveys.
For the first split you will diveys. Bunch of
Not
input
biannual, split you will.
for the funniest plays. FlyQuest versus EG, Jose going in on Wukong and just dying. That one to me was kind of funny, but more in like you feel bad for him kind of way, because
Like you don't know what else to do, so you laugh.
because you like you see it and you're like,
relax.
oh, he really thought he was gonna win here, like he's going in, you know. You're like, I've had that moment
I don't know
before.
what this guy was thinking. That was weird. Ha ha ha.
And then Inspired
Wasn't even close.
Inspired just turns around and bonks him on the head. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Not really for Jose, but it was definitely
For
funny.
everybody else. That was a
everybody
laugh
else.
at you rather than laugh with you.
Yeah,
play.
they weren't laughing with. I mean, especially because he's just like, he sees them. They're both full. He straight up flashes on his ass. He's like, oh, you're going down. It's not even close.
And Inspired emotes him early too.
Yeah. It was a struggle. Another one that someone submitted was 100 Thieves versus EG. Closer juking Inspired in the brush. I'm pretty sure that was just a cool play.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I don't think it was cool because it's more funny now. Well, okay, it was cool.
It was,
I'll take that
one
back.
of the big brain kind of juke plays.
But what made it more funny is that Wukong has been updated, so the clone doesn't even S-stop anymore. The clone doesn't just stand there. The clone will auto-attack you. And so then people are still getting juked. You can tell that they're still used to the old clone, and everyone just has that like hardwired into them. If you see Wukong stop, oh, it must be the clone or whatever.
Yep.
But the clone nowadays will auto attack you, and so he still got juked and he got like jumped over, and it actually resulted in an escape. Those are really funny because those are the peak moments of the like short clips that you'll see when someone like flashes the wrong way into a brush, and then they're like,
that was actually wild. You did MSI, right?
"What?"
Yeah, there was one
Baker
of
did
those.
that? I think
like someone, he looked like he was gonna flash a wall. He like walked up to the wall like he was gonna flash it, and then he flashed back into the brush.
People have done a lot of those, but
there was one of those at MSI.
Yeah.
we've had some even this year and in LCS.
Yeah, it's definitely super, super fun when people do that. We got some other submissions. I actually think, so there was Fudge Tag at level 1 or whatever. Was it level 1 or level 2? I can't remember. But
It was level 1 because he had like, you know, your Kale, you have lethal tempo going.
It was not level 1. What was it? Level 1 all in Sejuani?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was level 1. He just had E, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he had the execute thing.
That is E.
Okay.
E is the auto attack reset.
Yeah, auto attack reset gives you range. You have lethal
execute.
tempo. You win level 1 against Sejuani, I think, if you play it well. But then he just kept running forward through creeps and like everything. Yeah.
I don't think you win like really any all in as Kale level 1.
You can
Maybe
win
if you
some.
take Ignite. There's some Kale 1 tricks that take Ignite and actually do go for stuff like that. But in this case, he was not remotely close.
No.
And
He was like 200 health off and
it
still
was
running
way
forward.
off. I don't even think the Sejuani actually needed to ignite him to win, but like the Sejuani had ignite anyway.
It was like, I don't know what else. It's like you think you're getting bamboozled, so you're like, I'm going to throw everything at this guy. I guess I'll ignite him because maybe there's something I don't know.
Yeah.
So the first one and this third one are both just ints.
It's laughing at.
They're
not
just
laughing
no,
with.
but they're just clearly they're like the same style of play where the person really believes, all right, I'm gonna kill this person, and they just.
I think it also is like it's a relatable kind of humor. Like all of us have done that play.
Yeah.
And to see a pro do it, there's a little bit of bronze in everyone. And when you get to see it peak out in a pro match, you're like, oh yeah, they are human.
Exactly. It's like was it Carria this last week that got like a Baron steal with YUUMI ult or something like that? And I was just like, it happens to the pros too. You lost your Baron to a YUUMI ult. So stuff like that could definitely give you that kind of satisfying feel. I actually think the funniest play of the split, and maybe it wasn't funniest play, maybe it's funniest moment or whatever. But like I can't even remember who was this Talia wall against. But I was casting with Freak, and there's this Talia wall.
I think it was CLG. It was against CLG.
It was against CLG, and was it like Takui did or something? I can't remember.
I don't know.
But it was someone tweeted this to me, and it was this Talia wall that's a zoning wall for Baron, and Freak just pops off about this Taliyah wall. The Taliyah wall, well, blocked them, blocked them. And it's an entire team of people with dash. And I'm like, freak, they're just going to go over it. They all fly up to the wall, like Lucian dash over, like Aatrox E over. Just everyone gets over it. It does absolutely nothing. It was so funny. And then the observers replay it and do like the slow-mo Taliyah wall coming out and everyone just scooting over it. I think 4 out of 5 of the players had a dash and immediately went past it after Freak just absolutely popped off about this Taliyah wall.
I like that though. We should do that more often. Pop off about things that are about to like get completely overdone. Mm-hmm. Can't think of another example in my head right now.
We do that sometimes when the game is like clearly over.
Yeah, like a random
and super
kill.
one-sided. Yeah, then we'll start talking. We're like pushing minions type of,
or like, oh, they got their wolves when they're like pushing their base for 20
They're getting their Baron. Yeah. It's the good wolves for Baron trade. Appreciated everyone's comments and got a lot of cool suggestions as well for things that we could do next time. Some people wanted us to do all like tuxedo divies and
I want to do that.
Awards and stuff. So we'll see. We have a lot of ideas. A lot of people sent some great suggestions. So I'm excited for the next
them up every
for the
time,
next
actually.
divies.
Yeah, one can be really
pirate
themed
themed divies.
We're just gonna have a costume party every split. I like it.
Yeah.
Great.
I love
producers. Do you have an extra couple $1,000 every split for costumes and props?
Yeah, let's do a Rolex themed divies. That would really be funny. The producers can buy us all Rolex.
We get sponsors.
Yeah.
Who wants to sponsor the Split Yule Divey?
We're like, I need some new shoes today. We should do,
Puma.
yeah.
Yeah, all right. All right, all pro discussion. We got my thing just got signed me out. All pro awards just actually came out. We obviously in the last episode talked about who we thought were gonna be the winners. But there were some surprises in there, and there was a fair bit of community discussion about like, who should have actually won and not, so on.
Yeah, I think there were two kind of like the two biggest conversations, and one was also a carryover from EU, where 4 of the 5 first pro all teams were from the best team in the split, and I think for some people that's a little surprising, and maybe that it's hard to believe that 4 of the 5 best in their position are all on the same team when they only finish 1 game better than their opposition. Or I think for even Mad Lions,
they didn't even finish first.
Yeah, there was ties and stuff. So like, in competitive splits to have that. And then the other thing that a lot of people were upset about was like name value picks that people thought were having underperforming splits like Core JJ, Bjergsen, whoever. There were a lot of people that those were the biggest discussions around who was snubbed, who wasn't. We talked about CLG players not getting on. Takoi was kind of the only one who had that kind of sneak in from a team that was not on the top 3.
For
Berserker, I should stand correct. It was also from not top 3.
For the 4 out of 5 thing as well, it also happened for LCK. It was everyone except Canyon, I believe, was from T1. Mm-hmm. So it definitely is a really common theme, and I do think there's like some merit to saying like, okay, the teams players are getting a little bit more overrated. It is definitely something that we talk about a lot with just like, it's way easier to look good on a good team, right? When your team is always winning, your mistakes get covered up. Like you make a mistake early game in lane, well, your team is winning bot side, so they just like roam up top and 3-man dive this guy, and now the mistake doesn't matter anymore, and you can still snowball the game. So people are more remembering like the result than how they got there sometimes, which I do think affects it. I would say it felt less weird with EG because EG was so dominant. I was surprised that JoJo got first team though, because I didn't think he had like as amazing of like an individual split. But it is really, really common theme everywhere around the world.
Yeah, and Abadaga wasn't even on there. I know,
weird to me.
I know a lot of people. I think it's just because a lot of voters remember the first 2 weeks where everyone is flaming him because he is admittedly, having some very bad games. But I think that blew up more in people's minds, and they never kind of moved past that. It's the same theme for me with like 100 Thieves having a lot of being underrated for a lot of the split, despite being second place team. Mid lane was especially funny to me though too, because the day after they came out, Palfox came into Discord and he was like, "Oh, so you didn't vote for me, huh? You voted for Juan, but not me. What the fuck is going?" And I was like, no comment.
It's funny.
Sorry, bro. You didn't need it.
Yeah. Oh God. The mid lane was the most contentious of the all pros in the sense that JoJo had the least of the first team at 87 points compared to the most was inspired at 127. Borderline. I think there's one person.
There was one media person who put him third team, and every single other voter put him first team.
That could, because technically, of course, the EG stat can. But yeah, so like he was almost unanimous. But you know, mid lane was a lot closer to your point. And I do feel like EG, it's a team that feels easier for me to agree with some of them. Like Danny, I actually put Berserker over Danny. And if you looked at pro player votes, because I always like to like break up the sections about like who's voting for what, because it does sometimes get washed away in the mix of all these people, and that's why you have all the different voting groups, but certain people have certain things. And if you did just pro player and coach votes, it would have been entirely EG first team. So it's like, okay, I feel a little less bad if like, you know, the people who are playing against them are also like, yeah, they're all Smurfs. But the one that would have been tied would have been Berserker being tied with the same amount of first team all pro votes as Danny. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's cool that, you know, Berserker was getting a lot of props on a struggling C9 team. So
absolutely. I think I saw someone broke that down. You guys were talking about it in waiting room, right? I think I saw like a picture of it. Maybe you weren't on that day.
I was not that day, but
I think there was someone had broken it out in like Riot votes.
Yep. Yeah. They
pro
did.
coach votes, media votes, and it was like split up. So it is interesting to see the differences, right? And that's something that we talk about, is that generally pro and coach votes are going to be much more reliant on scrims, right? Where we're voting much more off of what we see on stage. Sometimes that really aligns. Sometimes there can be some differences, because the reality is a lot of the pros and stuff and the coaches like aren't even watching all the LCS games, right? Like they watch the games while they wait in the studio before their games. But then largely they're scrimming, they're watching like all their VOD reviews and all that sort of stuff, right? But it's not like they're watching every single LCS game, and they play against these people all the time. So they're very heavily influenced by, you know, what happens in practice.
And for us, I mean, we don't
get to watch those.
We don't get to watch those. And we also don't even get to really watch their games as closely as they do when they're playing them. Like the camera bounces around, you know, we play without fog of war on basically when we're casting, you know, like the perception, anyone can experience this, you know, like the difference between playing League and watching League is night and day. When like someone leaves your lane, if you're in God mode, you're like, oh yeah, he's just going and doing this little thing in the river. It's not really important. But for the enemy team, you're like, is he mid? Is he going mid? Where's he? You know, that stuff suddenly feels so much more impactful. And so like the feel that you get from playing against some players is drastically different than like, he had a 5 CS lead. It was like good, but then like you play against me, it's like, oh my God, he's contesting every
suffocating.
CS. Yeah, exactly. So
that's something I really miss about doing it with Lane Kingdom, was also sometimes like watching a lot of the individual 1v1 matchups and seeing the way that people created leads. Because sometimes you'd see someone get into a really big lead and you're like, oh my God, this guy must have absolutely like turbo stomped him, right? And maybe they did something really incredible and that's really fun to highlight. Or maybe their opponent just like had a really bad game, right? And just like missed a bunch of CS and that's why they're up 20 CS. Like they didn't even really do anything to create it. And that happens too, right? So it is fun going back, because to your point, it can be very different than like we're watching the game as a whole, not an individual lane the whole time. But something that I've been kind of noticing is this kind of like anti-TL phenomenon a little bit. Like the expectations were really, really high for TL, obviously, and they should be. And I think TL has not met the expectations that they had for themselves and that were set. I mean, maybe they win summer and whatever, and then that story changes. But like Core was obviously, you know, kind of getting a lot of hate from what I saw. I know there was some pretty strong reactions to like, you know, to Bjergsen being up there, you know, to a lot of the TL people. And I think it's kind of like done this thing where it's kind of gone full circle of like, everyone expects TL to win really hard. Then they're not winning hard. So now we're kind of like on the other side where it's like, oh, like they're terrible. You know, it's like, well, they're not terrible. They're the third best team.
Yeah.
But they're not as good as we thought.
Yeah. I think, I'm fine with those players still making all pro. I feel the same. You don't go on Reddit. I don't know if you saw the post game one. If either of you saw the post game one thread when they dropped the first game to FlyQuest. Oh, it aged like milk, dude. That thing was so funny to go back into. Everyone who's like a TL hater was in that thread like, oh my God, Philip just got Whippo? Like, what the hell? You know? 3 matches later, they
got like practically perfect games.
It was actually so funny. That series was such a good bait, because it was the first game of the series, and there were a lot of legitimate doubts around Team Liquid, and they got slapped. So it was definitely a nice. It was a good peak moment. especially for FlyQuest, because a lot was around Philip too, and it was like another one of these cool like young North American talent player stories coming through. But then the next 3 following games were just so hard slam.
I think it was 0-17-4 for Philip too.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so it was a funny first game to see all the Team Liquid haters take the bait, come out of the woodwork, and then just TL was just like whack. But yeah, I agree. Definitely, I'm a contrarian at heart. So like I'm at the point now where I'm like Team Liquid should win. I want them to go undefeated the rest of playoffs. Go on
But Mark, Team Liquid are so good. Now, have you changed your opinion?
Yeah, dude, I hate TL.
Yeah, they're bad. They should lose.
All right, patch 12.16 came out. It seemed like from what I've looked at, mostly kind of minor changes.
Really? I think they're huge changes. ZERI got put in the dirt. ZERI is actually dead.
ZERI's in every single
ZERI. We can celebrate. ZERI dead. ZERI dead. Also, YUUMI got slapped super hard too. To me, this patch is actually really big. Udyr rework is going to be amazing. That's going to be delayed for Pro because it is classified
as a VGU,
as a mini rework. Or whatever. I don't even know what the terminology is, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be delayed.
You think ZERI's completely dead from these changes?
Yes, they 100%.
5% less total AD scaling.
They literally said the goal of these changes is to icebox ZERI so that we don't have to deal with her until we rework this champion.
They said that. I had a similar reaction to the Q changes. The W got absolutely slammed because it's 30% AD scaling, 20% AP off of it. And
the W got big nerfs for sure.
Yeah. So like that was I mean, in the series, I forget if it was Luger or Berserker hitting.
I think it was
for 1K. He hit on Sven. It was 2 or 3 times in a row in the base, 1,000 times. And it was just like, all right, cool, dude. I don't know why this speed up close range, have to outplay me champions can also poke me for 1,000 damage.
It's just a Luxall on your W.
Yeah, you're just like, okay. So that part's gone. I see what you're saying, that like even if you take that part out of her kit, does she still not play?
Because most games, I feel like it is for sure those high
Want to make another bet?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Like for sure the W is a fat nerf and maybe that does just kill her. But like, 5% AD ratio off the Q. I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe people will pick it more selectively, but I wouldn't be shocked if it still gets a little bit of play.
I think she's in the dirt. Actually, some other really interesting changes too. Buffs to Jace and Aurelia. Aurelia is a lot tankier. More 10 flat magic resist straight up for any of these magic counters, AP lanes. I think that is actually huge. We can start seeing Aurelia used as a counter pick. We only gotta like a couple little times into Gnar, specifically for players that really like to go for those counter picks like Dokal or something like that. Jace getting the buffs as well. We have a couple of Jace aficionado players that might be feeling like they want to start using it again. So
the Malphite buffs, though, I think are actually pretty decent. Like a couple seconds off your passive cooldown, I think is actually a pretty big deal.
You're so lame.
Reset it.
Another
tank topside player, Azael coming in, guys.
I don't really play tanks very often, to be honest.
You've just given the spiel about like tanks before on the dive about how like, people only play the S tier tanks. There's all these other ones below it.
Yeah.
Azael coming up, guys. Malphite's got a buff.
I like your impression of him. Guys.
I just think of as soon as he said Jace, I'm like, well, Malphite's really good at Jace. And then I look at the buffs.
It's so boring. No.
Do you guys think there's any chance of like the Zoe W change being more impactful? Because you can get your spells from allied minions killing them. I know some people
she's already getting used, though.
But like some people were saying like Zoe support because you can play Zoe bot and you would get the summoner spells and stuff from all the minions.
It's definitely better for later in the game and for the skirmishes and stuff. So. She was already getting played, so anytime a champ's already getting played and you get some little buffs like that, easy peasy.
Yeah, huge ARAM buff. We'll be talking about those in a second. Don't want to get ahead of myself, though. Kai'Sa is the other one. I love watching Kai'Sa when it's not W poke Kai'Sa is broken. And they did do a lot of...
never coming back, by the way.
It's never coming back, but it's a lot of AP buffs that they mostly slapped onto her. I don't know if it's enough to push her in the meta, but with some of the other AD changes going on, like ZERI getting hit, YUUMI getting hit a little bit, I would love to see her come back for Worlds because there's just something. She has one of those kits where like you land the W, you go flying in with your ult, you pop your Q, you stealth around. Like she does have really good highs for as a spectator, I think. So I'm really excited I hope she comes back.
I agree, especially like the assassin style where people are like going Gale Force and everything, Gale Force Collector, whatever, and trying to dive backline. Like it is really exciting high moments. When people just pick Kai'Sa and then go like Kraken PD and hit frontline, I'm like, what are you doing? Play something else, right? But no, I think it should be pretty exciting.
All right, most importantly, ARAM changes. We talk a lot about for pro players. We talk a lot about for solo queue. This had a lot of ARAM changes. How you guys feeling? You're a big ARAMer, I know.
I literally never look at ARAM changes ever.
Pog.
That's how I feel about it. ARAM changes.
You wanted to talk about this.
I'm going to.
Are just purely based on the numbers, and it's there's not even like a high low elo skew or anything. It's just literally whatever the average win rate is for the champion. If it's above 50, they nerf it down a little bit. If it's below 50, they buff it up a little bit. So to me, the ARAM changes aren't really interesting at all.
They're interesting in the sense that it's going to be a nightmare to play against more assassins. Just a ton of them got buffs this time around. It was all over the Reddit thread. People were talking about it. LeBlanc up to 20%. Akali got another 5% slapped on there for her damage dealt and damage taken. And it's because a lot of people are terrible assassin players at low elo, myself included. When I play Zed on ARAM, I run it. I play against good Zeds. I get absolutely dumpstered. And yep, now he just deals 10% more already from 5% buff to 15%. So like, it's going to be really awkward. I personally feel like this is going to be really weird to play against. Because it's like the skill discrepancy of the fact that it's not being balanced for tiers of play is weird to me.
I mean, it's kind of hard to, right? Like the reality is because it's ARAM and people just get put on random champions. The average player is terrible at assassins, right? And so assassins always have low win rates. So when you play against competent assassin players on ARAM, they're turbo broken because it's like Akali's dealing 15% extra damage and taking 15% less. And if she does her combo properly without even the bonus damage, she can already one-shot you. And then lots of champions on ARAM take bonus damage.
Yeah.
So they're doing like
zigs into
it's just like you're taking like 20 to 30% more damage than you would on SR. So like champions like Akali literally just hit an E and you die 100-0. Like it's like what the hell is going on here? I actually dislike ARAM way more ever since they balanced it at all, to be honest. I think it was better when it was literally your champion is the same as it is in SR. And I'll stand by that. I actually think ARAM has gotten way worse ever since they started trying to balance it because I don't think it does anything. I think most of the changes are bad. And I actually liked, one of the things I liked about ARAM is that it helped me learn team fighting and damage thresholds and stuff. So like I could really kind of know like how much your combo was going to do when you went to SR, whereas you can't do that anymore.
The only thing I liked were there were some changes they put in, like decreasing the amount of damage you take at ranges and healing cut things where you like Sona comps and Nidalee comps are not just like instant wins because you just get poked out under turret. Those always felt bad for me to play against, but the damage buffs and the damage taken changes feel weird. I'd rather just go back to the reduced healing type things. I kind
of honestly think, and then we can just move on because I know Kobe has literally zero interest in this.
I've never, I've played like
played
two
a couple ARAMs with me.
I've played like 2 ARAM games a year, so I think it's my quota.
Yeah.
Every like 100th Azael invite I accept.
That's hey, just have to keep doing it every day. It's like my kind of, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but like basically it's always going to be RNG, which team has a better comp anyway, right? So maybe individual champions are less OP, but like then team comp matters just as much. So it's like, I just don't think it matters. I'd rather it be the same as SR so you can actually kind of like learn as you play. But Assassin's definitely gonna be super OP on ARAM. All right, let's jump forward. We got a Twitter question here. This one comes from John Scovic, or Scovich, I'm not sure. With Summer MVP reveal around the corner, who is the best active player who has not won a split MVP award? And in brackets, why is it someday?
It's Impact. I would push for Impact probably. I feel like his like highs are never high enough to get over someone else that split. Even in All Pro sometimes, you know. But over the course of his career, he is one of the best players of all time.
Has Closer won a split MVP? Because he won Finals MVP.
No,
but I don't think I'm pretty sure he also has.
Core won an MVP, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Core definitely did.
Yep.
I would put Closer up there as well.
What about Vulcan? Should Vulcan be in consideration?
Probably.
I think Someday is a good one. I think Impact's a good one. I think Closer's a good one. I mean, Inspired won in EU, so I don't think we can count him.
Yeah.
I think Vulcan's a pretty good one. Vulcan has been a really good sport for a lot of years in the league now. There's probably some other people we're not thinking of.
I feel like the 80 carry pool is pretty fresh of like good players.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good ones who I'm sure will pick up an MVP.
I can say Berserker's probably got one in his future.
Even like Danny, you could see one of the splits if he just like really goes off. Yeah. There's a lot of players I feel like you have it brewing in them.
But yeah, I'm not saying them because they're like brand new to the league.
Yeah, it's not like someone who's been here for 5 years is always good and you're like, yeah, but they're just never winning an MVP.
What about Bwipo? I don't think Bwipo has ever won an MVP. He's been pretty incredible for his career. I don't think he ever won that I can recall. Maybe I'm forgetting one that he won in EU or something.
I don't
like,
think he did.
I don't think he ever did. And I mean, man, we made world finals, world semis, etc. Like, he's had a pretty incredible career. So there's definitely, I mean, it's hard to win MVPs, right?
Yeah.
Bjergsen has what, 3 of them? So that's why I think that was like pretty incredible. But there's a lot of players, like even if you're just looking through All Pro, almost no one in All Pro has won an MVP, right? It's literally just Core, Bjerg, and Inspired in EU. I think those are the 3 out of 15. So like you can look at a lot of the All Pro lists, and those are going to be a lot of the people that come front of mind who haven't won MVP but maybe should.
Yeah, I would put the other names in front, but
in front of Bwipo.
Yeah,
fair enough. Thank you for the question, John. So this last weekend, obviously we had FlyTL, we had CLG C9. Should we start with FlyTL?
We can. I don't know how much there is to say about it.
Philip had a great game 1.
Incredible game 1. The solo kill was great. You love to see it.
Yeah, they got dismantled after that. I mean, it was a really exciting start to the series because it was
upset win basically,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone thinks Team Liquid is going to win the whole series, and to start with basically the FlyQuest upset win was very exciting.
And the way that they did it, I think, was also exciting too, right? I don't think anyone was pointing to, oh yeah, like if FlyQuest wins, it's going to be through like Philip just dominating Bwipo or whatever, right? Yeah. Like no one was thinking that. Everyone's like, maybe if Takui and John or Jose can like get an edge. So I think the first game was really exciting, and I think it's cool to just see another young NA player like have a big moment like that, even though the rest of the series was obviously a bit of a flop. TL just absolutely dominated the next 3 games, turbo stomped it. All 3 of those games felt like, even if they weren't actually over, they were over by like 10 minutes, like it was clearly in TL's favor. TL did a really good job with their team play. Like after the first game, even when Philip would get like a matchup that he wanted, TL did such a good job playing around Bwipo and finding dives and like picking him off every time he's in side lanes and stuff. Like they just played so well as a squad that it was extremely dominant. And Hans obviously had an amazing series as well.
Yeah, and you could tell too with just the vision on the map. Like if you just watch this like time lapse of like fog of war moving across for the last 3 games, it was just like it would move side to side. Team Liquid constantly just blacking out an area of the map. Boom, they take the dragon. Boom, they take the baron. Boom, they pick someone off on the side lane, and it's just like massive
it's like
control.
Planet Earth when they do the time lapses of something growing. It's just like, the vision like growing and overtaking FlyQuest. Yeah, that was the question I have coming out of it. Because it was like, okay, TL slammed almost all 3 lanes. It was like no one lost. Like Bjerg had a great series. We didn't even talk about him. I think he died like once in the last 3 games, maybe not at all. Had like 100% KP. He was all over the map. Does this change your perception of Team Liquid at all moving forward in playoffs, though?
Not for me. No.
That's kind of how I feel too, and I feel like it makes us sound pessimistic about them, but the problem was never that Team Liquid couldn't get leads. We talked endlessly about how they're the best early game team. Week 8, 4K lead at like 15 minutes over 100 Thieves. They throw that. And FlyQuest is not 100 Thieves. They're not EG. They're not the teams that TL's kind of trying to push through to get into the number 1 spot. So like, I never doubted that they could get massive leads and turbo stomp people below them in the standings. It was nice to see that they didn't stall out when they had those huge leads, but game 1 was still kind of like, they just never really got rolling and just fell apart. And maybe they were just like nerves, first day on playoffs, like whatever. I don't chalk it up to too much, but it didn't feel like they showed something new where like, I'm still waiting for the game where it's like, even at 20 minutes and they make good plays from there in 5v5 situations to win the game, because that's what we has been their struggle all split long.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for them to do like much more. Yeah, they had the bad game one, but like in this series, it was like it's hard to stomp these games more so than they did.
It's
right?
funny that like a less stompy would have convinced me more, maybe like a 3-0 where like FlyQuest puts up a fight through the first 20 and then they win versus, like.
It wouldn't have for me because I was already like, I know we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, but I was already much more negative on FlyQuest than you guys were. You guys thought they were kind of like in that grouping that, below the top, but like with the CLG and C9. Yeah, but you guys were saying that they were kind of on the same tier as those other 3, 4, 5 teams. And I was saying I thought that FlyQuest is a tier below everyone else, like there with like the 7, 8. So to me, if they were competitive and pulled out some late game team fights, that wouldn't have been a positive from my point of view. But overall, it doesn't really like them stomping FlyQuest doesn't convince me that they are going to be great against EG or 100 Thieves or anything, because I did think FlyQuest was like down towards the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still predicting 100 Thieves over Team Liquid.
Spoilers. We have the look ahead.
All right, CLG C9. That was a really fun series. That was actually so bloody, really, really action packed, back and forth. I actually loved that series, and I felt really bad for CLG because I think
they threw the game.
Yeah,
twice,
multiple times,
3 times.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if it's fair to say or not, but I think on average they probably played better, a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. Like,
well, I think it's unfair to say that because on average, Cloud9 won the series.
Yeah, but
so I would say the average would be Cloud9 played better.
Yeah, but it was like I guess they were. Is it fair to say that they had more winning positions?
I think so.
Where it was like more in their hands.
It's an age-old debate in League of Legends. The most famous example of this was G2 versus T1. I think it was 2020 Worlds. I could be wrong on the exact matchup because they played a bunch of times over those years. But there was one where T1 was winning almost every early game and then would lose through like getting out macroed or like would into Baron or something.
Yep.
And I think it was Vedius said something like, T1 outplayed them but lost the series, and people lost their minds, But like, I do think there's some truth to a team getting advantages, playing well for 20 minutes or something like that, and then like inting the Baron, and that will cost you more than the 20 minutes that you did beforehand.
Yeah, this is like the Rek'Sai player mentality arguments of like, man, I've been working for 20 minutes to get this big early lead, and then this carry that I've been camping for just threw the game away in one giant Baron play, and now we lose. Great. Like that, I relate to that.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
I mean, I definitely don't want to say that like, oh, they deserve to win or anything like that. But I think saying they had more winning positions feels fair, right? Where it's, and to me, like I would kind of define that as it's their choices that led to the victory or defeat more so than Cloud9's in more often in that series, right? Like the Baron moment is definitely the biggest one. But in the final game as well, there were some moments I felt like where they kind of like opted into situations that really ended up costing them. C9 played a great series too, and this isn't a distraction for them, but it just felt like I was trying to think about like, man, this would hurt so much if I was on CLG and lost this series, because it's so easy to think that they just had to change a couple things independent of what Cloud9 was doing and that they would have won. And it would have been a big deal. Like CLG hasn't won a best of 5, a playoff series since 2019. So it was a long time coming. There was tons of really rowdy fans, for both CLG and C9. So like the atmosphere was amazing. Our producer, Elias, who's a big CLG fan, he was there. And he was saying that like the atmosphere in the crowd was really, really awesome, that like he was cheering for CLG, but there was a bunch of Cloud9 fans around him. So like when something would go bad, they're kind of laughing at him, whatever. And something would go good, they'd be like patting him on the back, like, oh, congrats, buddy. And so it just seemed like a really cool atmosphere. And it's definitely one that I think is really going to sting for CLG.
I see where your argument comes from. In like a competitive, close, like best of 5 like that. But I do think it takes away and doesn't give enough credit to Cloud9 for the series, especially like remembering that Sven is just a very fresh role swap over to support. I thought he had some really, really big moments creating these openings for Cloud9. So yeah, I mean, I would.
Cloud9.
I'm not going to predict. I'm obviously not going to predict them over Evil Geniuses, but I do think Cloud9, manufactured their own win. It wasn't like, oh, this is handed to you.
No, it's just like I'm just saying. I think that like there was more opportunities for CLG, it felt like, to close it out than there were for C9. C9 played great, and they fully deserved it, and they're, were super, super exciting. I think, their bot lane played really well. I think, Blabber had a really solid series. Like, overall, it was like a big team effort. So it was really, really fun to actually just watch. Like, it just felt very evenly matched. And I think that was what was the most exciting about it, is that you can't really tell who was going to win.
Yeah.
Like, I would be,
oh my God,
I would be so down to watch another best of 5 of these guys. And I think there's a reasonable chance that Cloud9 gets knocked down to the lower bracket, CLG makes a run in the lower bracket, and we get a rematch.
When we were up there casting, I'd be like, oh, like this, jumping up and down, and I'd be on the ground, like, 5 minutes later or whatever.
Position.
There were so many things to review in that series. I mean,
not least of all, starting on red side, blue side won every game that series. You talk about the 2 in-game throws, but like, I understand why CLG thought they should start red side, because they had a better win rate on red side over the course of the regular season, and they do feel like a red side team where they use these counter picks and flex picks very well. But turned out blue side was more important.
I mean, they also did the testing game 1 of Kalista just got nerfed. We'll leave Kalista up.
Bad test.
We'll take Renato away even.
It's scientific method, okay? They're gaining some data here. For the entirety of the previous patch, Kalista is permabanned. And of course, especially against Berserker, right? But that nerf actually hit Kalista in solo queue 2% win rate, which is pretty significant. And so they tried that test, and that test came back negative.
Yeah, that plus you can see.
So that was a big one.
They're like, we took the Renato away. That's her best laning partner, and Sven's like, give me Ashe, and it was like, oh shit.
Which was so cool. I think that's what contributed also to a lot of how cool this series was. Were the picks.
Yeah,
interesting picks, and it was interesting picks from both sides. Cloud9, Sven had this Ashe, Hail of Blades, aggressive tower diving support Ashe pick. And then and CLG had their, double assassin solo laners picks and stuff like that. And so it's really cool to see in a best of 5, the champion selects go back and forth and have that many differences in it as well. I think that just makes series infinitely more interesting and exciting.
I mean, pick ban in general was really interesting because it felt like very little meta banning and a lot of just target banning players, right? Clearly CLG's read was that Sven is only good on enchanters, or at least those are clearly his best champions. So they were banning out, the Lulus and the Yuumis all the time and things like that, and leaving up, Zero more commonly. We were seeing Seraphine and Draven get banned out. We saw Yone get banned out after that, right? Things that aren't always banned, we're getting kind of target banned against some of these players, which I think was really interesting. We also saw the evolution of Vibe becoming less and less kind of prio, right? Because it went pretty bad usually when Vi was actually getting picked.
Juan came in Discord and he was like, I hate playing Vi. Why am I playing Vi all the time? Do a champion. Especially I think teams also just getting better at countering, all in
Trundle
dive champions and stuff like that. I would say, I think, that's something Cloud9 do deserve credit though, is there are a bunch of the changes on the new patch for playoffs that they adapted to quicker, especially the Kennen, because Kennen got buffed on this patch as well, and that became something they had to keep banning, even after the game where they had 3 exhausts. And they did double exhaust the Kennen in the same team fight. And there was a visual bug that the second one didn't keep showing the duration. But they checked it afterwards. And the team fight in mid, where there was an exhaust on them and it looks like it times out, they actually put the other exhaust on and they had both exhausts. And it still did so much damage. And so then they're like, okay, we got to ban.
They're like, all right, we don't want to play into that. And then there are so many little things over the course of the series that made each game interesting, like the Silas Amumu interaction with the Zonias, and then you get to 16 and the cooldown on Silas all becomes 20 seconds, and then it's wait, you're burning your 90 second Zonia to stop him from stealing your ult, and then they just hang out at Dragon until he can steal it again.
And then he made by the very end of the game, Sven stopped using Zonia to try and deny it because it only puts Silas ult when it's denied on a few second cooldown. Yeah,
it was really cool to see all the little adaptations game after game. And then the final thing was just Berserker was kind of the time bomb of can you stop him? Because it felt like in any fight where he was not killed immediately by CLG, he took over the fight in a lot of late game fights. And the final one where he's just Lulu'd up, he's this giant Sivir going melee range against Gwen, just hucking boomerangs, God, he's so fun to watch. I hope he stays for a really long time.
Me too.
I love watching him play.
He's an absolute team fight monster. And I mean, Sivir is obviously really good in late game, and he's playing Ghost Sivir, which can really like create those highlight moments. But yeah, especially game 5, because that was the only time C9 actually got an enchanter. Then you can really go wild. So that was really exciting. But I'm very interested to see if more teams are going to bring out the support Ashe, or if C9 is going to continue to try to bring it out. Because one game we saw it look super useless, where Contract shut it down very, very early when they were playing against the Draven game, and he like just flashed over the wall behind them and got that early kill, and then it kind of fell apart. But the first game, even though, you know, everyone was talking about Berserkers Callista, and he had, I don't know what it was, like 7 kills, 8 kills.
He got a ton of kills, yeah.
He was 7, 2, and 7, right? Sven actually did more damage than him in that game. And yes, there is volley poke, like that's obviously a real thing, but like he was going off in that game, man. He was like 1v2 early in the lane, gets the solo kill. He was doing really, really well. So we got to see like kind of both sides of the coin with the support Ashe. We got to see the really good game, and we got to see what it looks like when you're behind, because that game is so useless. Just firing Ashe arrows from fog from across the map and stuff, just praying you hit something in that second game. So it'll be interesting to see how this series kind of like affects the meta going into this weekend.
All right, looking ahead at the lower brackets, we got a question here from Queenera2. Do you think any of these lower bracket teams like TSM or Golden Guardians have a chance against CLG and FlyQuest?
Well, Golden Guardians, I'm going to say no.
Yeah. I think CLG, even though they didn't win that series, to Azael's point, I think they proved that they were not just a flash in the pan best of one regular season team.
I already knew that.
I mean, I think a lot of us knew it, but like it was good. Even though they didn't win the series, which I think is like the ultimate proof, anyone should believe in them now. And going up against Golden Guardians, who last we saw, not super impressive. So I don't feel it there.
Yeah, they went 1-8 in their second round robin. Only one win with River, and their only win was against Dig.
Yeah.
And they were actually losing that game the whole time, and Dig got Elder, Baron, and Soul. So and
the most comical story,
and still lost. So that's a roughie.
Playoff momentum.
Unless Golden Guardians changes something enormously or like really figure something out.
Wait, like letting their GM go? Oh, wait, they already did that.
I can't see it being a competitive series. I think CLG is going to 3-0 Golden Guardians, and I don't think it'll be close. I actually think TSM FlyQuest could be close, but I don't know how you guys feel about this, because I know you guys are a bit more on the FlyQuest train, but I already felt like FlyQuest was more on a tier with TSM than they were with TL. So I think this one could actually be pretty competitive, and I wouldn't be shocked if TSM won. I don't know that I would predict them, but I think this one's pretty darn close.
No, I think that's definitely the competitive matchup of the two is FlyQuest TSM. I do still have the confidence in FlyQuest, even after getting stomped and steamrolled by Team Liquid. Team Liquid have had the best early game of any team in the LCS, all split long
by a lot,
even before playoffs. So they've done that to a lot of teams, TSM included as well. So I think actually taking the grain of the first game and the positives there, plus the fact that they just beat TSM in the last weekend of LCS as well, does give you the feeling of like, okay, they are still the favorites to win this series.
I'm still, I wouldn't say like hot on Fly, but I think Team Liquid is as bad of a direct matchup as you could probably get, or like in theory, where FlyQuest is not a great early game team. They're actually negative. They were like negative 200 or something. They're more about like how they work as a team. Johnson plays scaling picks. Philip gets a lot of counter picks. Bwipo gets a lot of counter picks. You want to go for like a scaling bot lane where Johnson's on Twitch or Sivir or ZERI or something. Guess what? Core and Hans absolutely dumpster their lane. Takoi's your ace in the hole who has good team fighting. Guess what? Bjerg's probably the best team fighting in mid laner in the league. Like I think in theory, that's just a terrible matchup for FlyQuest. I don't know how they ever win that.
In practice, it was also a terrible matchup.
In practice, when Team Liquid's not playing weird in game one, it's a terrible matchup. And that's just not TSM at all. TSM is weak side Orns and tanks in the top lane. They're not counterpicking Philip the way Bwipo and Philip are going to trade counterpicks. Their bot lane is not dominant. Chime mostly roams, like his best plays are roaming, not smurfing on lane. Like Spica and Maple are your biggest concern. But like just the matchup is so different that like it's not like they can just copy Team Liquid's blueprint of like, yeah, just slam all three lanes. That's how we play. So I'm not actually as worried for FlyQuest. But TSM has been ramping up, and I don't think that they necessarily hit their peak in the regular season. So there's a chance that these 2 weeks that they've had to prep, they come out with some stuff.
They have made the lower bracket run before as well. They've got the hope.
Yeah, I mean TSM went 3-3 in their last 6, which is not like insane, but it's decent, right?
They beat CLG.
Yep, they beat CLG, they beat Dig, and they beat Golden Guardians. So the later two like aren't super impressive wins. Teams below them in the standings, but they did at least take down CLG. They were pretty competitive in some of their other games. I do think solo obviously was an upgrade for like the immediate kind of time. And I think that when you're thinking about the FlyQuest matchup, it'll be interesting because it's like Philip is known as like an Aatrox guy, obviously, right? Like that's one of his champions that he's best at, if not his best champion. And if Solo is going to play tanks, I think Aatrox is probably just going to be banned every game because Aatrox has really good tank matchups, and he'd be happy to play those. So I'm curious to see what else he would bring out. Like, is it going to be, like just Camille's, or is it going to be like Fiora? Is he going to go like actually really aggressive? And that's kind of their game plan. I'm most interested to see like what they really want to bring to the table for this series. Because obviously it's not a comparable opponent to TL, right? It's going to be much easier in the early game. They're going to have a lot more chances.
I think if TSM win, they're going to win through Spica, and they're going to have, Maple playing for Spica and jungle domination, early. Like Spica has had some games where he has really snowballed. So I think if they do have a path to win the series, it'll be something like that.
Big agree.
Rely on bottom lane later, maybe.
Yeah. And Solo's been really good about setting up ganks for his team and even getting some solo kills against people who are playing into his Ornn, and they're like, oh, I got the skill matchup. I got the carry. And then he just like bonk. Yeah. So Philip will still be tested, even if he's not playing like counterpick versus counterpick. Crazy matchup kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's obviously a much better matchup for FlyQuest. I mean, I think Takui has been really solid. I didn't have him in my All-Pro, but he's definitely up near the top. No one was talking about Maple at all. So I do think that there's windows for them to get like serious opportunities there. And I think their bot lane is for sure a lot better. I think Instinct is probably the weakest bot laner in the LCS right now.
If Golden Guardians win, how do they do it?
Do you want to do your the Fly TSM predictions first?
3-2.
3-1 FlyQuest.
3-2.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 FlyQuest, I guess.
I thought you were a hater. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, I
3-2.
I could see TSM winning, but I don't actually think it's going to happen. The more I think about it, I just like the individual matchups almost all the way down the line for Fly, which I think makes it hard to see how TSM would win. But maybe TSM will take over in jungle. Okay.
More difficult question.
CLG Golden Guardians, how would they win? Oh, that's a difficult question.
You don't even have a single player, I feel like, where you can be like, that guy's playing good. And if they enable him, that guy takes over. Like, Azael has been struggling. River has not found his footing on this team. Yeah. Licorice has been struggling.
I actually think Stixxay is maybe their best player right now.
Yeah, him or Ole, I guess, if he gets one of his weird support matches. Because they've had some drafts that win for them, like maybe it's
bottom lane.
Draft diffs.
Draft Enchanter and Hyper Carry? Is that what you're telling me?
It's usually like weird, like Mundo Sejuani things, though. It's like a playmaker.
The Senna stuff is kind of good.
Yeah.
They do the Senna farming bot lane. It is tough. I mean,
but are you going to carry a game like that?
I don't know.
I think they have to draft diff him because I don't think it's coming from play.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's why I'm saying is
in the past I would always have pointed to Licorice, but Licorice really has not been like consistent at all. Like he still has his moments of brilliance, but like I can't see Licorice being the reason that they win this series, right? Yeah. Like winning three.
Well, I got 3-0 CLG also.
Yeah, I'm 3-0 for sure for CLG. If they were to win a game, like I don't know. I mean, the bright side of this is that they got River, and now they've actually had some time to prep with him, right? Because he came over, they immediately started playing, things were going bad. So you have to hope that they've really figured some stuff out during their downtime and maybe kind of got more on the same page. Because River at his best was super explosive and maybe could make something happen. But this one seems like really, really lopsided based on how poorly Golden Guardians was playing and how close CLG was actually to beating Cloud9.
All right, now we move to the upper bracket, the juicy ones. 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid.
Oh,
all right, Mr. Bjergsen voter, are you going to go for Team Liquid?
I'm not sure. I think I'm probably still on the 100 Thieves side. I mean, like I voted for Bjergsen. Yeah, a lot of people did. He was second team All-Pro. But I still like even voting Bjergsen for All Pro, I still talked a lot about how I thought Abadaga was the best mid laner in the league in the second half, right? Like to me, and I put him on my All Pro as well.
Same.
So I think that Abadaga is like, until proven otherwise, the like current best mid laner in the league. I thought he had been really, really good down the stretch. So I do kind of give them the edge there. I mean, 100 Thieves has just been really, really solid overall throughout the whole split. And I do think it's concerning, like you were talking about earlier, Mark, just for TL. Like, can you depend on getting these massive early game advantages against 100 Thieves and like closing it out every time, right? Because we've seen them throw those games. We've seen them not be that consistent. And 100 Thieves can have a really strong early game themselves. So like, I don't think that you're guaranteed to create these monumental advantages, which does kind of make it tough. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more on the 100 Thieves side for sure.
We're all 100 Thieves then. Because 100 Thieves also beat them both times in the regular season. I think 100 Thieves are
and they beat them in spring playoffs
favored. But I've talked to a lot of people on the G4 show we did. Frost and Dash both predicted Team Liquid to win.
So I forget who said it. I think it was one of the 100 Thieves players I heard the first time where they're like, yeah, we're like 17-4 or something, 17-10. I don't remember what it is. Some insane win rate versus Team Liquid, and yet every time Team Liquid comes in and people are like, I'm kind of feeling Team Liquid right now, you know? Like I heard some good things about their scrims. They looked really good just before this, and then
I like that you're like, yeah, I'm feeling some Team
somehow
Liquid.
people get like a whiff of something about Team Liquid.
What's
They're
that
like,
I smell? Am I tasting something?
yeah, they're like, I guess I'll vote Team Liquid, and then next thing you know, 100 Thieves win again. So I'm
is it really that extreme?
I forget what
I
the
think
stat is.
with this roster, because if you just cut off with this 100 Thieves
it's not all
roster,
the time.
then that cuts off like the beginning,
When they're
their
in
first
purple
finals and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like when
so
Closer joined 100
Yeah, I
Thieves.
wouldn't actually be surprised if the cutoff being this current roster of 100 Thieves, they had a really good win rate.
Yeah, so I am favoring 100 Thieves. I've heard Team Liquid is incredible in scrims, as they've been all year long. I just don't think it's going to matter because 100 Thieves are so good as a team.
So I just want to interject because you just reminded me. I heard from multiple players that they thought that Team Liquid was not better than either Cloud9 or CLG.
Really? Well, I've heard some interesting things about EG2 when we get there. So
Yeah,
we'll hold off on that.
There's a lot of spice flying around
Players
right
are
now.
leaking scrims.
Everybody's
They don't
getting
care.
hyped off of scrims. Basically, is what's
Yeah.
happened. They're getting big puffed up chests off these scrims, and they're like, you know what? They're trash. They're trash. We're sick.
Yeah. So I think 100 Thieves, though, they only dropped one game in the last like 2 months. It's going back to July 17th, month and a half. They dropped the one game to FlyQuest in the final week, but other than that, hadn't lost until you go back to, the 16th, where they lost to FlyQuest again. I think they were undefeated except for that. So they've been on a huge tear, as they always seem to go on the end of the regular season when they buckle down. And I think it's going to stay that way. I don't think that Team Liquid has the massive advantages that they had against FlyQuest. Like if 100 Thieves want it, yeah, they can pick Senna Seraphine and go scaling and like annoying and make a crazy ball comp, or they can go Lucian Nami and actually like contest you in the wave and whatnot. So I feel like they have a lot more depth to their play.
So for sure, your stat was really wrong because I'm already looking back, and even just to the start of summer last year, they would have been 8-6, including this year and last year's playoffs when they lost 2-3 to them. Because they won 3-2 in spring playoffs. They lost 3-2 last split. They won 2-0 in regular season. And in the regular season in summer, so that brings 10-6. And then I haven't gotten to spring yet. But at least it's more competitive than you're saying.
Well, we got to include spring.
Good job, investigator.
You said 10-6.
You said 14-4 or 14-3 or
that one's
something.
wrong. I forget what it was. 17-10. I forget. It was some number.
Anyway, I'm just saying, like, it's for sure not nearly as dominant. Like, over the last two playoff series, so in spring, 100 Thieves won 3-2. In summer, TL won 3-2, right? So their playoff series have been very close. So it's not like, 100% of the time, TL always loses and the buffoons always just pick TL, right? So I just wanted to at least get that out because it does seem like...
I could have been lied to, too. I didn't fact check it.
Yeah, I'm curious to go back to spring now and see.
That's why I only said these 2 regular season games, both of them, 100 Thieves won.
I mean, we'll have it figured out by broadcast. Someone by then will have actually looked it up, but it's not going to be me.
10-7. So, including spring, and I'm not looking at lock-ins and everything, it would be like 11-7 or something.
I think if you include lock-ins, it goes up even more because
I don't think they really even play. They didn't play this lock-in.
Not
they
this
played
lock-in.
one game last, so it's 12-7 if you include last year's lock-in over the last 2 years. So 12-7 for 100 Thieves. So good. And one playoff series apiece, 3-2 both ways. I think it's gonna be really, really close. I think this is the rivalry in the LCS and has been for the last couple of years. This is like way bigger, and then it used to always be about CLG TSM. It's 100 Thieves TL now. These teams also, the banter gets a little bit spicy, I gotta say, in some of the pregame lobbies and stuff
Between the players, yeah. And on Twitter, online.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of times when the players are bantering in the pregame chat, it feels very like haha lighthearted.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm going to say it does not feel that way in these, and like it feels like there's a little bit of like you're kind of laughing while you're saying it, but you're like, I fucking hate you. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kidding, but like you're terrible. I'm gonna smash you. There's a little bit of something to it, right? Like I remember it was really funny. In the final game of the season, they're kind of bantering a bit, and like someone on TL is like, you guys are ready for a long day? Basically we're gonna beat you in the fourth tiebreaker, whatever. Yeah. And like 100 Thieves are like, it's ending right now. Like you guys are losing, like it's just, I like it, right? There's a little bit of heat to the rivalry. So I think it's going to be a really good one. I still am a little bit on the 100 Thieves side, but I think this is probably a 3-2. I think it's absolutely reasonable to think that TL could win. Considering how close their series was in spring, considering how close it was last year in summer, obviously different TL roster, and TL, if they've improved a little bit, it might be enough to push them over the edge. I do think that they looked really good against FlyQuest, albeit against a worse opponent, but it's gonna be a really, really exciting series.
Yeah,
I'm hyped. This one's gonna be a banger.
Predictions?
I'm gonna go 3-2 100 Thieves. I do think 100 Thieves is they're just a more solid all around team.
Yeah, I mean we're all predicting 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
It's just a game score. I also think 3-2.
I might flip it by time the actual predictions roll around, just to make the graphic look more.
You think everyone's gonna be 100 Thieves side? I don't think it's that close. I mean, I would be totally comfortable predicting TL. Like, I think this is pretty close, but I just because I think TL has a worse late game, which does hurt them. I don't think they're gonna be able to create big enough leads in all the games to be able to just run them over.
I'm with you, but I don't know. It feels like anytime it starts going one way too hard, gotta be careful.
Yep.
Like that FlyQuest series. Was it you? It was you who was calling out the analyst desk on the FlyQuest series, right? For everyone predicting Team Liquid.
And then because he also predicted them.
I didn't call out the analyst desk. I said on the analyst desk, I hope we show the predictions graphic because it's all of the Team Liquid predictions. Yeah, I'm included in that. I didn't say the analyst desk are dumb.
Kind of more like, all the analysts thought that they were going to get stuff.
No, I did not.
Go back and
please go back and look at it.
I'm pretty sure.
It was like all these analysts predicting FlyQuest.
Yeah.
You guys are bullshit.
No, I'm pretty sure.
I need to go back.
Because they seemed pretty salty about it when it went to the desk.
I know they did, and I was like, I want you to pull up the graphic that shows all all these predictions.
I need to make another edit. If he tried to throw them under the bus, I need to make another edit. I love editing.
Maybe unintentionally, but I do think that
I specifically said pull up the graphic because the graphic is all Team Liquid, and it's an upset for FlyQuest.
I liked your Sven edit, by the way. That was a banger.
It was so funny because it was such a great interview, pro to pro. It was like 10 minutes long. He was just like giving really in-depth answers all the time.
Yeah.
And he kept asking Hi to pause because he had so much to say. But like, it was so funny to find an edit where you just make him look like the biggest a-hole possible, where he's like interrupting Hi, throwing Berserker under the bus, like just hyping himself up.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That was a good one, though. That was definitely a pro to pro worth watching. All right. Now that we know that Kobe hates the analysts, we can move on to EGC9. So you're 100 Thieves as well. Did you say your game score?
I said, no, I didn't. 3-2 100 Thieves, and I'll flip if I need to.
Okay. There you go. So you're 3-2 both ways.
I'm 3-2.
Yep.
Superposition.
All right, EGC9, we got a question here. This one comes from After IG Gaming or iGaming. After Berserker's performance against CLG, he seemed to be the top performer in the team fights. Can he make up the make up the difference to overcome Danny and EG? If not, what does C9 need to do to give them the best chance at winning? I don't think that Berserker is a better team fighter than Danny, personally. I think Danny is the best team fighting marksman in the league. You can definitely make arguments that it's like EG enables him better, and that's why he looks better. But like saying that the way that C9 needs to beat EG is Berserker needs to be a better team fighter than Danny, I don't see that as a big way in, because I don't think that there is like a gap there. Berserker is incredible mechanical AD carry, but like Danny is the team fight guy, right? Like that is his stuff, and EG enables him so well. So I don't think that Berserker is going to perform better, even if it is like a team diff thing or whatever, but I don't think he's going to perform better in team fights.
I think a way to frame it for me that makes sense would say that Berserker's so good that he gives Cloud9 a way in because he's not outmatched by Danny in late game.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that more.
Yeah, so like because Berserker you can count on to basically probably play as well as Danny over the course of the series, most likely, we'll see. But like the question then becomes like who needs to step up to make it so that that becomes the case? Because I feel like the idea that like you always have Berserker in your back pocket, he's going to play really well in team fights. Who else needs to step up? That and for me, it's probably Blabber and I don't know. Let me say
Man,
this.
it's kind of like everyone.
Yeah, so I was about to say in the entire top
It's really
side of the
hard.
map. Yeah, because it feels like Inspired so good. He works with his laner so well. He runs over the game. It's the reason he's the MVP front runner in everyone's minds. Like you have to slow him down, and you don't just do that by being like, "Get in there, Blabber," And the entire team needs to play better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, EG is by far the best team fighting team in the league. They have been for, for a while now. And they enabled Danny so well. And Danny is truly exceptional in team fights, right? Like when you're looking at like his DPM stats and like he gets so much out of every bit of gold that they give him in these team fights, and they funnel him gold, right? They put him in these winning positions. And I think in particular, Impact and Inspired play around him so well in 5v5. Like they always are playing that limit and creating space. Like if Danny gets hard engaged on, they are pushing back the enemy carries like every single time, it feels like, and doing such a good job of that. So it is really, really difficult. I think that, theoretically, you could see, Berserker like competing in the team fights and like C9 winning in that way or whatever. But C9 have had way more like errors and way more holes in their game than I think EG do. EG have been like super, super consistent. I think, Impact is like absolutely a rock on the top side. Inspired has been by far the best jungler all year long. I do think that like Vulcan is also, I think, by far the best support as far as like consistency. Like I think Sven is really good, but Sven has not been nearly as consistent, I think, as Vulcan. I don't think any supports have been. So it is difficult to see a way in. I'm pretty like EG favored on basically every matchup right now. But at the very least, C9 is one of the teams that are willing to take some kind of crazy swings. And I think that can be a good way to actually like, come in and try to upset a team like this.
So one other thing is the rumor that EG sucks in scrims right now. That one, I think I've heard from one source, and then also Fudge on Twitter, or I guess a Travis interview with Fudge that he put out, was that they think that they were smashing EG. EG's not good, and that
was that a meme though?
I couldn't tell. Fudge was both kind of memeing and also very serious.
Yeah, that's hard. I watched that interview as well. I kind of took it as he was memeing, but I guess it's like it is hard to tell, right? Because wasn't that kind of like a prompted question? Didn't Travis kind of like ask him like, oh, like what can you say to like give us hope or something remember. Like that? I thought it was something along those lines.
Yeah, but I also thought I heard something else, like I said, behind the scenes that made me, I couldn't tell again if it was like memes or if people were just like having fun saying this stuff, or if it was really like,
or if EG is doing really poorly in practice.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm personally really excited for this matchup. I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think that C9 is a team that'll just like go down without a fight type thing. So I'm interested to see like how much they will have kind of prepared for EG. But EG are so rock solid all around that I do think they're like heavily favored. I think EG are heavily favored to win the whole thing. So that's not really going to change like massively here. But I'm interested to see like what C9 can bring out, because C9 we know has incredibly high highs, right? Like if Blabber can be performing at his best, if Jensen and Fudge are performing at their best, like I think Berserker has been like pretty damn consistent. And we also got to see like the Ashe support and things like that. So like maybe there's ways that they can kind of take advantage of the EG bot lane that they're not necessarily like thinking of or considering. It was also interesting seeing Jensen Zillion get banned a number of times. I think it was banned at least twice in that last series. So in game 1, I think got banned. And then in one of the later games when I think that C9 needed an AD jungler, they also banned it, which I kind of saw as like, oh, it's like a kindred ban too. So it'll be cool to see if they like
the boomer champs to throw the zoomer off with the Nivea. He also had that earlier in the regular season too. Maybe Jensen's got a champ pool diff.
I think Cloud9's angle is, and that's was one of the exciting things in the CLG matchup, is the champ select coming into this, because they have been very creative and they have an early handle on this playoff patch. So I think that's their way in. I mean, yeah, EG beat them both times in the regular season, but I still think it's gonna be a hype matchup.
For sure. Well, this episode is going to come out at a bit of a different time, so PSA on that. Next week will also come out at a bit of a different time because we have Thursday and Friday playoff matches. This episode is going to come out as soon as they're done editing it. This is Wednesday morning. We're recording it now, so maybe it'll come out tonight, not sure. It depends on how the upload goes. Next weekend, I guess this weekend, we're actually recording. After Sunday's games, we were going to record the dive right away because we can't record it at a normal time. The studio, I think, is taken or something. So that one will also come out early. I think it's going to come out like Tuesday or something like that. So we'll be coming out at a bit of a different time. So definitely watch out for the dive releases. You can obviously find it on the YouTube channel, and we'll be tweeting about it as well when it comes out.
Yep. So stay tuned. Hopefully you can watch these before the series come out. And if not, you can watch them and see hindsight. if we were right or wrong about some of these series.
Do you guys want to give your numbers for the EGC9?
3-0 EG.
3-0?
I don't know. Maybe
Really? I'll go 3-1.
I'm going to go 3-1 as well. I give C9 a game.
3-0.
3-0. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for us for now. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm. Keep sending us your questions. Thank you for everyone who sent in their questions this morning to Kobe's tweet. And use the hashtag DiveLOL, the DiveLOL. That's how we can actually scan for a lot of these questions. So if you have questions you want to send us throughout the week, it doesn't need to be a response to a tweet or anything like that. We do definitely appreciate hearing from everyone, and we appreciate all the feedback we got for the Divies last week. LCS continues Thursday at 1 p.m. is when the first game's going to kick off. FlyQuest versus TSM. 4 playoff matches this week. We'll see you there.